So we know the arms trade is a multi-billion-dollar global business, and we can't escape from that. Huge amounts of money thrown into this, and we scrabble around trying to get enough funding to get you some coffee and cake, and these guys can sort of, they sell weapons that are in the billions and billions of pounds. And every single day, Keir Starmer at the moment seems to be leaning more and more into this military-industrial complex, excited that he gets to drive a tank occasionally, and completely sort of wowed by the fact that the right-wing press finally aren't beating him over the head because he's buying nuclear jets. But obviously, the linkage between weapon sales and war crimes is really where the space where so many people are speaking on the panels today have been at. And I believe in journalism, even though it's a hollowed out and cruel beast, and I think if you met some of the defence correspondents in this country, the word propagandist quickly springs to mind. There are precious few defence correspondents out there who are really criticising the industrial complex that we're seeing with the expanding role of the military in our society. Declassified is a very good paper to read if you're not aware of that. But even some of my favourite papers like The Guardian, haven't necessarily been as critical of this creeping military-industrial endeavours. But it goes to if journalism has a role to play, which is to scrutinise power and believes that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's no surprise to me that the UN Security Council really are the big arms sale boys on the block. And I say boys in a gendered way because they're all men. And if you go to these arms sales events, the only women you ever see are people in bikinis clutching Kalashnikovs. It's the weirdest, most gendered and toxic place. If you can get a ticket to DSEI, I recommend you go, sign up, try and get in there by will of Contrade, the Arms Trade Treaty, that reports BAFA, which is Germany, the EU COAM database, Open Sanctions, Jane's Defence, national FOI portals like whatdotheyKnow.com. If you don't know whatdotheyKnow.com, recommend you use that for all of your investigations into corruption in the UK. You've got the SEC, EDGAR filings, which will enable you to go into American corporation reports, annual reports from the company. This was something I used a great deal when I did an analysis of BAE Systems, using their annual reports, because they're trying to be it's a bit difficult for them, because on the one hand, they want to sell their shareholders, we sold to loads of countries and you made you rich. On the other hand, they're talking to us going, we didn't sell to anyone nasty. In investigative journalism, we triangulate our work. You frame the narrative around human impact. You go to the ground and you interview people, you meet people who have been under the shock and awe of those terrible weapons. You offer right to replies, which is important. I once went to the head of Glock, and I asked him for a whole series of right to reply. He wrote back to me and said that my suggestion that his marrying a 52-year-old, a woman 52 years younger than him, and in the marriage buying her the world's most expensive horse was libelous, because I was suggesting that this 86-year-old marrying a 34-year-old was not a match made of love, rather a match made out of the profits of weapons.